All right, let's talk some overrated drafts here. So, first, I just want to be clear in what I mean by overrated. So, I'm not talking about teams that did not get good players. In fact, most of these teams are going to be teams that got good players. What I'm talking about is teams that are getting a lot of hype for their drafts, largely due to what I think is they had a lot of draft capital instead of because they were actually good at drafting. So, number one, it's going to be a hot take. We're going to fight about it, but so be it. Number one on this list is the New York Jets, who I want to be very clear got some players who I really like. Sauce Gardner, I really like. I had him as my number 2 overall prospect. Garrett Wilson was a little lower on than most. I wouldn't have drafted him top 10, but I still really liked him. And again, given the run on receivers, they needed a receiver. Like, okay, would I have rather Jamison Williams? Sure, fine, whatever. But, those 2 picks were very good. You had pick 4 and 10. You should have gotten 2 very good players with that. So that's kind of my thing is I don't give you that much extra credit for some of this stuff. Now, they still had some really good players. Again, I want to be very clear. This was not a bad draft by any means. But when I look at the consensus draft grades, they were first overall on that, which I just don't fully agree with. Because, again, part of it is I'm not as high on Jermaine Johnson as others. He was 11th on the consensus big board. He went here at 26. To me, 26 feels way better than 11th. Like, I don't think this was actually as good a value as some people are making it out to be. And drafting Breece Hall at pick 35, it's a running back at pick 35. Like, that's not good. Like, that's just not smart team building. Now, it'll help out Zach Wilson, of course. And so that's kind of the nice thing is that you're helping develop your quarterback, but you're still spending a fringe first round pick on a pick that's going to help out your quarterback as opposed to something that's going to help your team. So, again, there's the whole, well, it'll help develop Zach Wilson, which will then, therefore, help develop the team. But, the studies I've shown on this say that, like, drafting a running back in round 6, it's going to give you similar value. Not the same value, but similar value. I did really love the Jeremy Ruckert pick. So, like, again, this was a good draft by the Jets. This was a top 10 draft for sure. But it wasn't a top 1 draft, in my opinion. It was just they had a ton of great draft capital. But again, I wasn't as high on Jermaine Johnson, and I don't love drafting a running back at pick 35. So getting good players is what you should do if you have this draft capital. And it's the same thing with the Giants, right? The Giants got some good players. And, again, you deserve credit for drafting good players with your top picks because not every team does that. See Jacksonville, right? Teams do screw that up. So they get credit for not screwing it up. You do. And again, I loved Sauce Gardner. I thought that was a great pick by the Jets. Here with the Giants, I loved both of their 2 top 10 selections, Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Huge fans of both of those guys. Did find it a little bit weird that they went with, they went Kayvon Thibodeau at number 5 instead of going tackle at 5. Maybe they felt like they didn't want to risk losing Thibodeau, and maybe they thought someone might trade up or something to get him, which, okay, that's fine. But regardless, I love those 2 picks. Those 2 picks were awesome. But again, picks 5 and 7, you should get awesome players with those picks. And I really thought they had a lot of reaches in the second round and so on. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson was the 84th rated prospect on the consensus big board. He goes at 43. So, that alone. Joshua Izuda, still don't know how to pronounce his name, but he went at 67. He was the 177th rated prospect. Cordell Fort went at 81st. He was the 194th rated prospect. Daniel Bellinger went at 112. He was 173rd rated prospect on the consensus big board. Dane Belton went 114. He was 191st on the consensus big board. It goes on and on. Micah McFadden, 147. Was 197 on the, 146, and he was 197 on the consensus big board. DJ Davidson was 147th. That's when he was drafted. Goes 310th on the consensus big board. Marcus McKeithen was 173rd. Goes at 318 on the consensus big board. Finally, Darian Bevers was a steal according to the consensus big board. But those are a lot of reaches. So, again, you got 2 good players, but is this the 6th best draft? No, it was just really good draft capital, and so that's how they got good players. So the Giants, I feel even more strongly than the Jets about, like, this was an overrated draft. They did good stuff. They definitely had some players who I liked on this list, but I don't know. Just wasn't my favorite personally. The Titans here are going to make this list largely due to the fact that, so they had the 7th best draft on the board, and my thing is like, okay, well, you lost A.J. Brown, so you're going to get docked for that, and that's kind of my main thing. Like Roger McCreary at 35, small reach, not a big one. I don't hate that one. Nicholas Petit-Frere is an interesting one. Don't hate that pick at all. And Malik Willis, I think that's an awesome selection. Getting him at, like, I had a first round grade on him, so getting him at pick 86, that is absolutely awesome. Although again, the Titans do have a quarterback, right? So it's not as big of a deal for them as it would be for some other teams, but I still really like that pick, and that's why I still like their draft. Because again, overrated doesn't mean bad draft, but I wasn't as high on Treylon Burks. I think that, listen, I don't know if he's going to just step in day one and be A.J. Brown, right? That's a lot to ask of him. A.J. Brown is really good, and just because Treylon Burks checks a lot of the same boxes that Brown does, like, okay, well, Brown also won on the outside on one-on-ones consistently, whereas Burks, it's kind of a, could he do that? I don't know, because the offense was very much built around him, whereas the Titans' offense will not be built around him. It's going to be built around Derrick Henry. So how will they go about using him? I think he'll probably be good in that offense. I think that they still got some solid players, but this wasn't an awesome draft. This top 7, that feels way too high for me. One more team that is high on this list that I don't think totally deserves it is the Detroit Lions, who, by the way, they were one of my top 7 winners, okay? So they're 5th on the board. I had them as a winner, though, when I made my 7 biggest winners. So I still like their draft, right? But some people are saying, oh my God, this is the best draft ever. No, it's not. I mean, they got 2 good players. They should have gotten 2 good players. Like, they had all that draft capital, and I'm usually not a huge fan of trading up in general, although I love Jamison Williams, so I don't hate this whatsoever. Josh Pascal and Kirby Joseph are good players. Like, this was a good draft by the Lions, and Hutchinson falling to you at number 2 is awesome, but it's also an easy selection. So it's a little bit overrated. It's not massively so. This was actually number 7, the 7th one I came up with. I had 6, and I said, okay, I need another one. All right, I guess the Lions is a little bit overrated. So I don't hate it necessarily. Again, I really like the draft. I just think it's, some people are pushing it up a bit too high. It was still a good draft. Made my top 7 best draft lists. So, kind of just goes to show. Just because I like your draft, I can still think it's overrated. The Texans here at, my dog is shaking in the background. I'm not sure if that came up, that you heard that on the microphone. The Texans are going to be another one of the biggest overrated team, I think. They were 11th on the board for, 11th best draft according to draft grades. That's what people said. I don't know. I mean, listen, I like Derek Stingley. He wasn't my number 1 corner, but I liked him. Again, you're getting a good player. Number 3 overall, it's like you should get a good player. So I don't really give you that much credit for getting a good player there. And then Kenyan Green, I thought was a reach. Jalen Petier, I wasn't as high on as others. Did really like John Mechie, and I do really like Damian Pierce. Don't know if they need a running back, but pick 107. That's fine. And then some people really like Christian Harris. I was lower on him as well. So again, part of this is just an evaluation thing. I didn't love some of their picks, and I thought that they reached on a couple guys. So that's kind of why I don't think it's the 11th best draft. I think that it was just they had a lot of draft capital, so they were going to get good players. That's kind of how I feel. So 2 more here. The Green Bay Packers are going to be my next one, who... This is weird because it could make an underrated or overrated list, because I think they did have some really good picks here. Like Zach Tom, some people are really high on. Kingsley and Ogbear, some people are really high on. And, Devontae Wyatt, I am really high on. And Christian Watson, some people are really high on. To me, I think Christian Watson, it was a bit of a desperation move to trade up and get Watson, but I think that was fine because they needed a receiver. The issue was they didn't have to do that because of the Quay Walker pick in the first place, it just wasn't good. Like this is another team, had a lot of draft capital here and kind of made some weird picks. They had 11 picks. Like, they should get some good players here, including, 3 top 35 selections. Like, yeah, you should end up with good players on this. I don't know if they did a great job. 14th on the big board. I would probably have them close to like 20th. So that's kind of where I'm like, okay, this thing gets a little bit lower than others. Not to say that it was a bad draft, but there's some people who are saying it was like a great draft. I don't agree with that. I think it was a fine draft. Even 14th, I won't fight you on it too much, but it just felt like, didn't love it. The Buccaneers are going to be my 7th selection here. Other team that, again, 17th on the board. It seems like everyone's kind of saying, it was fine. And I guess I get it because this is a team that's purposely going out and trying to, acquire some talented acquire guys who can be successful right away. They're not drafting for best player available. They're going to have some reaches, intentionally so, because all they care about is what's good right now. What helps your team right now, and in doing that, you're going to reach. So, Logan Hall, I don't think was much of a reach. I believe I had him right at 33rd on my big board, and he goes 33rd here. So, I like him, and he'll fit the defense solidly well. But, Luke Goedeke is someone who, again, I get it, you need a guard. Felt like a little bit of a reach. 106 on the consensus big board, gets drafted at 57. Rachaad White, don't love drafting running backs. I get it. You want a pass-catching halfback. Did you have to draft someone with your 91st overall pick to do so? Could you have not found someone to sign? Cade Otton, I get it. You want another guy who can come in, and you do run 3 tight end sets at time. So, we don't know if Gronkowski is back or not. This is some Gronkowski insurance. Sure, I get it. Still don't love it, but I get it. That's fine. I have no issue with that one. But then a punter, I pick 133. That makes 0 sense. Some people really like Zion McCollum at pick 157. Maybe I'll give a deeper dive and look into that some more. Maybe that can bump them up a little bit. But as a whole, again, I didn't think they didn't do a great job of maximizing their talent, but they did get some players that'll help them immediately. So again, I get it. I'm not mad at it, but wasn't my favorite draft. So that's kind of what I think. What do you guys think? What were some drafts that you think were overrated? And also, why was I way too hard on your favorite team when I put them on the overrated list? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.